kinda, dripping off the meat grinder. Heat niner, pimping, stripping, soft, sweet minor. China with a neat signer. Dripping off the beat kinda, dripping off the meat grinder. Heat niner, pimping, stripping, soft, sweet minor. China with a neat signer.
Hey, welcome in once again to another edition of H-Town Huddle. Appreciate everyone who's showing up and showing out here. Week 3 edition, and we are 2-0, baby. 2-0 vibes. Huddle up, everybody. We are out here doing it. Defeated the Colts in week 1. Took out the Bears this past week in another close one. Congratulations, everybody who is a Texas fan. If you've been sticking with me for a while, you know that I am all about the Houston Texans, but we also talk a lot of fantasy football and all the other isms along with it. Make sure you're checking out everybody else on the GWN network. My homeboys that are doing it live every Tuesday and Friday with the Wake Your Game Up. We also have the Grit Don't Quit on Sundays all day, start and sit questions, leading all the way up into the Sunday watch parties, Sunday night football, Monday night watch parties. You name it, we got it. Plus Thursday night playmakers and the Thursday night football watch party. So we got it all for you, baby. We got it. We doing it right. So appreciate everybody. Like I said, one more time, let's take care of some housekeeping stuff and talk to everybody up in the chat. So salute to my homeboy Derek. You know what's up. Hit the subs, the thumbs up, and the like button. Make sure you are subscribing to the GWN network. Our ear to the streets, Lee, checking out, and he's already hitting us with some news. Joe Mixon was out of practice today, holding out hope that he could play this week. So thank you for hitting us with that news, buddy. And I got some information. I was probably going to close that out with the injury report, but since we already got some news from Lee, we'll just lead with that. So there it is. There's today's injury report that just came out. Texans injury report for the Minnesota Vikings this week. Some guys are a little bit banged up. We got Azeez Al-Shaair with the shin. He was limited today, so it looks like he'll be able to log at least one full practice before the week's end and still be in there. Although there could be a suspension looming, and we'll get to why here in a second. Chris Boyd, that's another safety there for some guy in the secondary and special teamers. He has a hip. He did not practice. Nico Collins did not practice with a hip/foot. I think he'll be fine. He expects to play this week, so don't worry about that. Nico Collins, fantasy football manager, you guys should be fine. Fatukasi with a shoulder, I'm a little worried about that. We'll see. I haven't heard much news about him. He did have a big impact in the game this last week. Joe Mixon obviously was the huge one with the hip drop tackle that he called the refs out on Twitter, and that particular play met all the criteria. There was contact. The defender wrapped him up by the waist. Then he flung his body around and then basically decleated himself, landing on top of the running back's legs there. So all of those classified as a hip drop tackle, and yet there was no penalty on the play. So unfortunate for him, but he did call out the referees, like I said. So Joe Mixon did not practice with an ankle. Monitor that. It wasn't considered serious. The MRIs came back negative. So if he logs in a couple of limited practices, or at least a limited practice before Sunday, I'd expect him to go, but a heavy dose of Cam Akers nonetheless. He is the Texans' only healthy running back on the roster other than British Brooks, the undrafted free agent rookie who made the roster as a fullback and who had some impressive runs in the preseason and can pancake block some guys out of the backfield as well. And he has been playing a little bit of tight end. So British Brooks, a name to watch in deep leagues where you could possibly use him, as a pass-catching tight end, or just, we've been decimated by injuries in the fantasy football world, especially with the news of Isaiah Pacheco going out. So just make sure that you're grabbing your handcuffs before your games. Also, Christian McCaffrey's placed on IR, right? So you have Jordan Mason. So just be sure you're being preemptive with all that stuff. So I would say that Cam Akers is the back two target, especially because Dameon Pierce, as you see there, he's listed with a hamstring again, did not practice. So he's trending towards missing again this week. Cam Akers probably being the healthiest guy in the Texans backfield. So somebody to look at even today. Waivers at Fantasy Football cleared last night or yesterday. So you should have the opportunity to maybe go by and see if Cam Akers is still there. If you have an empty roster spot, somebody who's putting up 0 points that you're waiting on a breakout for, Cam Akers might be a sneaky little stash there for this upcoming weekend versus Minnesota. Now, granted, Minnesota has a pretty good defense, but we'll get into all that in a little bit. Jarrett Patterson, calf did not practice. That worries me a bit. He is the backup center who played this last week in versus Chicago on the Sunday Night Football game. He was taking over for the injured starting quarterback Juice Scruggs, who's also here and did not practice with a groin. So both starting centers out. Not a good sign. Not a good sign. And shout out to our man Bogart, Scott Free, the GMM Network. Handcuff is a must. Survival of the healthiest. You better believe it, buddy. So if you're going into a game, you have an empty roster, an extra roster spot, an empty roster spot, throw that back up onto the end of your bench. Because if your starter goes out, you don't have to rush to the waiver wire next week. You already got the guy there. Hey, shout out to our man, Gemmo the Icon. Salute, brother. In a bunch of leagues with Gemmo over the years. Known the guy plenty of time for a long time. Make sure you guys are heading over to his YouTube channel and liking and subscribing every, I think, Tuesday nights. He is back with the Gemmo the Icon show. Much love to the man there. Great stuff, great entertainment, always funny. Mr. Gemmo, the Icon, and salute to Philip as well on that show, and Brian. But yeah, let's run through the rest of the injury report here before we continue on. Dalton Schultz was limited with an ankle. I expect him to be out there and play. There is some other news, though. Backup tight end Brevin Jordan was placed on the IR. You're missing that here in this report. So in a corresponding moves, the Houston Texans signed tight end Irv Smith to their practice squad, I believe, and he'll probably be elevated before this because it's just Dalton Schultz, who is a little bit banged up, and rookie Cade Stover, who had a nice catch and run out of the backfield playing fullback last week. You saw that set up. And it's funny because the San Francisco 49ers used a similar play in week one. Then he saw some Texans guys on Twitter say, we would like them to use our fullback like this out of the backfield, potentially someone like Cade Stover. And then Bobby Slowick, I guess, listened because we saw it happen last week versus Chicago. So very cool, very sneaky. I like that. He's somebody to monitor also in deep dynasties. I'm pretty sure that he might be picked up and put on somebody's taxi squad, but by any chance he's out there, he would be the tight end too, who's already getting the mix in, and you have a limited Dalton Schultz. So be on the lookout for Cade Stover, who also went to college with CJ Stroud. He was his tight end there at Ohio State. So somebody with a good pass catching regiment has already has that rapport with CJ Stroud. And so, rookie year, already making a little bit of noise. He's gotten plenty of praise from running back Joe Mixon as far as his blocking as a fullback out of the backfield. And then he mixes in with the fullbacks and the tight ends as well, like I said, because he's naturally a tight end, but he's playing that fullback position. Same thing with British Brooks. They kind of just lumped these guys in the same category. They did away with their fullback position. They cut Beck before the season started, and they kind of lumped their tight ends and fullbacks into one group together. But yeah, Juice Scruggs, that's worrisome. MJ Stewart still limited, working his way back from missing the first 2 weeks. So he is limited with a knee injury, and that's another guy in the secondary there. So like I said, some corresponding moves. They signed tight end Irv Smith, then let a few other guys from the practice squads go to make more room to bring him in. So that is what's going on there. There's the rundown after the last week with Chicago. Since we're on the Chicago, let's take a moment to watch a little Swarm video. Which one's the better one? Probably this one. So let's take a moment here, a 1 minute break just to catch up here and see what happened. Recap last week. I'll talk about it a little bit, and then we'll move into the Minnesota matchup. So take a look. Ooh, now if that wasn't some hype, I don't know what is. But yeah, Texans defense was the focal point of, as far as like what you could take away, what was really good about the Houston Texans this last weekend. The defense was crazy. They were all over the place. You got to see some really good stuff. I was a little bit worried about guys like DJ Moore and Rome Odunze after we saw what happened to the Texans week one on the back end with the long bomb, deep shots, giving up big plays. It was kind of reminiscent of some of the stuff that you saw last year from the Houston Texans. So able to clean that up a little bit more this week. Obviously, Caleb Williams struggled a lot in that particular game in prime time, but I'm glad that it happened. That way the national media could finally get off of the Caleb Williams going to be the next CJ Stroud comparisons that have been going on in the media. Get off of that crap. They're not the same. Not the same. You can tell one guy, super serious, stout, just in it, to win it, I feel. And then the vibe and the attitude just kind of feels a little bit different coming from the rookie this year. Hopefully he can keep his head up and get some better offensive line play that, keep himself clean. But yeah, it was kind of hard to watch. Really, the Texans have a great defense in themselves. So good two defenses going at it this last weekend. And that's basically what you saw, a little bit of sloppiness from the offenses. Here's the lead chiming in. Caleb taking these sacks. He's going to set the wrong records. Yeah, 7 sacks. He was sacked 7 times, pressured, I think, on 27 of 29 dropbacks or something like that. So, pretty tough. Shout out to the icon. Good win. Wish my Bears kept Fields. Yeah, so there's been some comparisons about Caleb and Justin Fields, basically say, they're almost the same instance. And then now, Justin Fields is out there, the starter for Pittsburgh, and they're winning some games too. So still pretty early, pretty rough. He does have the weapons and he was set up to succeed, but no Keenan Allen. He's been missing with some that heel injury that's been plaguing him for a little while. So it was tough sledding for the Chicago offense again, second week in a row. And it was a tough task, a tall task for them to take on I think what is a really, really strong Texans defense that swarms. We saw it in that quick video that I just shared with you. But here's some other interesting stats. The hype here, and this one came out straight from Sleeper. The Houston Texans are the only team with 2 cornerbacks in the top 10 for pass rating when targeted, minimum 50 coverage snaps. Kamari Lassiter, the rookie, first with 0.0. And then Derek Stingley at 45.7. That's 8th. Both of these guys are lockdown corners. Of course, Derek Stingley, you guys know all about him. He went up and basically ran this route for DJ Moore. He made it look like he gave him the inside release, like he was open. Then he snuck in underneath and basically ran the route for him. High pointed that ball, and then coming down with this pick, he twisted his body away and made sure that DJ Moore didn't have his hands on it so he could rip it away from him at the last second. So really good ball skills. These guys are ball hawking. Of course, Kamari Lassiter, we just saw right there with his 0.0. He is first, and this is amongst all cornerbacks, not just rookies, right? So he is first in the league when targeted. So he's been on a tear. He's been killing it. Here's his week 2 stats: 90.3 coverage grade from PFF last week. 7 targets, 2 catches allowed, 1 interception, and a 0.0 passer rating. And I think those catches were minimal yardage, if any. So near the line of scrimmage types of deal. So he looks really, really good. And then if you want to go as far as to grade him across all other rookies, not just in his position, there he is, Marvin Harrison, the only one who edged him. And this guy had it felt like 4 touchdowns last week on 4 catches basically. But Kamari Lassiter out there with a 90 grade at the cornerback position, which I feel is probably one of the toughest in football because you're out there on an island by yourself going against all these superstars. So Kamari Lassiter, great job. And then, of course, let's give a shout out to Joe Alt. I know Lee will love that, but Joe Alt, offensive tackle, doing really well. Good things there. And that they are running the ball really good because J.K. Dobbins is up in the top 5 or top 2 or something like that as far as rushing yardage goes. So kind of crazy. But yeah, the rookie DB, Kamari Lassiter, they gave him the veteran treatment all season long. He didn't play in preseason. They basically said, hey, you're a starter, from the get-go. And he's been showing it. So kudos to him. Great pick there by the Texans coaching staff. D'Amico Ryans, I'm sure, had a lot of input with that, as well as Nick Caserio, right? So GM of the year, he's getting snubbed. I think I shared it last week that he wasn't even on the top 10 list for a guy who's turned a franchise from the laughingstock of the NFL to a Super Bowl contender. And he's not even being mentioned in the top 10 GMs in the league is kind of funny to me. But kudos to my man, Nick Bubble Vest Caserio. There's Lee. Yeah, shout out to Joe Alt Delete. That's correct. I love that nickname. Good stuff there, sir. Yeah, so shout out to the Chargers. It's another surprise. And We'll get to another surprise team in the Vikings here once we finish covering the Chicago game, but let's go ahead and keep cutting through that. So we were talking about rookie DBs who go back to week one. The other rookie defensive back in the Houston Texans backfield, safety Kalen Bullock, had an 82.3 grade, and he had that game-changing interception versus AR5 Anthony Richardson last week or in week one. So if you're going to be ranking some of the best defensive picks, then these two guys have been steals for the Texans in Lassiter and Bullock. So Kamari Lassiter and Kalen Bullock, both on lock, both higher end draft picks for the Texans that are paying out first and I think third rounder, if I'm not mistaken. I can double check that, fact check me. But Houston Texans defense was on a tear. Sporting my "Can You Digs It" t-shirt from the Neon Peacock merch.com website. So make sure that you guys are checking out the website, right? It's up there on the top of the screen, neonpeacockmerch.com. I have sales going on at least 2 times a month. So make sure you guys are heading over there and checking that stuff out. And while I'm on it, go ahead and check out stuff from the GWN and check out this commercial from the Neon Peacock merch.com. All right, so we are back. Make sure you guys are heading on over to neonpeacockmerch.com. Anything that you can think of, you want to go ahead and hit me up with a DM, I can achieve it. If you can dream it, I can achieve it. We can put it on a t-shirt, screen it. So I do have a couple of other guys or peeps in the commissions list. I'm going to try to get to work on all of those this week when I get some downtime, but it's been crazy busy, and obviously fantasy football's in full effect, so we're doing it live all the time. So tomorrow we got a watch party, and then Friday morning we have the Wake Your Game Up. We're doing that. Saturday we get a little baby break, and then Sunday we're doing it all day, right? Fantasy football, we're just running it up. So 'tis the season, baby. But let's get back into finishing this breakdown with the 19-13 victory over the Chicago Bears Sunday night at home. The Houston crowd showed up. Many of the guys were saying post-game, the players were saying in the press conference, that it was great to see that good feeling, first home game of the season, and it was definitely felt. So kudos to everybody in Houston. Thank you all for showing support, right? Years past, it was harder to get people into the stadiums, but packed house, Big X the plug during halftime, got to see some of that performance. So really cool stuff coming out of Houston and just doing it for the fans. The food at the game looks like it's amazing. They added a whole bunch of stuff to the menu. So I'm excited to be out there at the end of October to catch the Colts game at home. I believe that's the one that I will be making my way over to. But back to the defense and these guys right here, the nightmare fuel, which is Will Anderson and Daniel Hunter. Both of these guys had 1.5 sacks each, only because they shared a sack on Caleb Williams together, but they each got to him solo, and then they shared a sack on Caleb Williams. I believe here, this is probably the one where they each got credited the half the sack. There's Will Anderson on the left side and Hunter on the right. And he is the QB Hunter for the Texans. Actually, they both are, right? But he seems to be that piece that was just kind of missing. I know that we had Jonathan Grenard and some other players to kind of help last year, but this guy is a huge difference maker for the defense, and they've showed it with 7 sacks on Caleb Williams. I think the Texans lead the league in sacks with 9. I might be mistaken. I think maybe somebody else has 11. It could even be the Minnesota Vikings who they played and faced this week. So this should be a really good matchup coming up. Both teams are eerily similar. I just have a weird feeling that one is pretending and the other's trending. So the Texans, to me, have not played their best football yet, especially on the offensive side. But it was a coming out party for the defense versus Chicago. They looked really, really good out there. as far as allowing, minimal run yards and hardly anything through the air. I think it was 173 through the air, which could obviously be better, right? But once again, they stuff the run, and they're looking like a solid unit. And they're doing that with only 2 linebackers on the field. So week 1 and week 2, you can see them there in the columns, and then there's the total, right? So 115 total defensive snaps. Azeez Al-Shaair has been out there for basically 100% of them. And then H2O filling in, and that's it. We're not going to mess with a third linebacker out here. We're just waiting for Christian Harris to come back so we can have 3 linebackers on the field. But right now, we're just rocking with these 2 guys, and they are killing it as far as, just what needs to be done out there. They've been winning games, and they haven't been susceptible as far as we can see, or as stats are giving us, susceptible to the run. So both of these guys doing really good. Obviously, H2O, if you've been having him in IDP leagues, he is the guy who has really stepped up in the absence of Christian Harris. I was thinking that maybe they'd get some playing time for Jake Hansen or Delshon Phillips, but nope. Those guys are just completely backups, not even backups. I would say backups to the backup who is H2O, who now has stepped into that starter role. So if you got him, start him and let that fly. But like I said, very impressed with the whole team as a unit. You saw some of that grit that the team has brought, and that's mostly been rubbed off of D'Amico Ryan's paws. But here's another quick little video just to show, what the defense looked like. I know you guys kind of saw it, and the game seemed kind of, uninspiring to the, the everyday casual fan who's not, closely vested into the team that's on the stream. But I was really impressed and not surprised, but was mostly, I guess, surprised that they've been playing this solid so early, especially how quickly they're able to clean it up. I don't know if it's because the Bears just kind of stink that much, but cleaning it up from 1 week to the next as far as not allowing huge passing plays on the back end, right? So let's get hyped with some of this videos from this defense and what the Texans were able to do again. This one's probably a little shorter. An offense that's eager to line up against that. Probably nobody, right? There's few and far in between who are probably in week 3 willing to step up to the challenge. So, like I said, should be a pretty good game for us this week, I'm thinking, versus Minnesota. They do a lot of things really well that worries me, especially with the 2 centers. But you saw that defense, man. If they can just continue playing like that, playing lights out, being violent, making people not want to, finish plays or run out of bounds or whatever it is, then then they're going to be striking the fear in the heart of the opponents, and that's what you like to see. So, yeah, there it is, Lee. Thank you for checking that out. So I was right. Vikings 11, Texans 9, Cardinals 7. So 7 of those obviously coming in one game. It's a little harder to stack Anthony Richardson, but they got to him twice regardless the week before. So Sam Darnold has a little bit of wheels. I think he got sacked 3 times last week. I'm expecting the Texans to get something like 4 to 5, hopefully, if they can generate that pressure. And if they can do that, I'd imagine that they'd also stir up enough trouble to get Darnold seeing some ghosts again and maybe commit some stupid boneheaded plays like we're accustomed to seeing him throughout the majority of his career. And then, causing some turnovers possibly. And then once that happens, I think the Texans, once they get a turnover or 2, when they win that battle, they typically win the ball game. The offense has been a little bit slower than I'd like to admit, but it is what it is, and we'll break that down here in a bit. I'm going to go in depth here in the next section after we finish this on breaking down why I think the offense is having a little bit of struggles. Some of it could be play calling, some of it could be rustiness and the new additions to the team, and a little bit could be attributed to the offensive line. So before we get there, let's just talk about, after this win, the Texans are now 2-0, so the playoff odds have shot up, pretty nicely. The Texans are now at 77% odds to make the playoffs, and then there's the rest of the list trickling down. And surprisingly, the Los Angeles Chargers are all the way up there with, I believe, 69%.
69, dudes!
So, congratulations to them. Cowboys just dipped under 50% with that last loss to the Saints. And then the Los Angeles Rams all the way down at 14%, unfortunately. But the Baltimore Ravens surprise the 0-2. And then you have Jacksonville and Tennessee right there, and then the Colts at 24. So all those teams at 0-2, really hard to come back from an 0-2 hole and make the playoffs. I think it's like 11% of teams that start off 0-2 have only out of like the entire history of the NFL. Only 11% of teams that have ever started 0-2 have gone on to make the playoffs. Obviously, the Houston Texans are one of those teams who did it last year, so can never count anybody out. But I would definitely be circling the Baltimore Ravens, the Cincinnati Bengals, the Detroit Lions, and have those odds go up. I know the Lions aren't 0-2, but the 36%, the same thing for Green Bay. I think those teams have a more decent shot than some of these other teams below 40% to make that playoff push. So it is what it is. Hey, what is good, Tino? What's good, team? Tino deserves an entry of his own. Here, let's do something cool. Here we go. Oh, shoot. I thought I had DJ. There they are. I know I have DJ home somewhere. The reggae tones. That was bad. Where's the... That'll work. I'll give myself a buzzer. So, yeah, so those are the playoff odds after week 2. Like I said, the 2-0 Texans have the highest odds to make the playoffs simply because everybody else in the division is 0-2. The last time that happened, or the last time the Texans started 2-0, was in 2016 when a big old guy named Brock Osweiler was the quarterback for the Houston Texans. And so he started the season out 2-0. I think they finished like 9-8 or something that year. I can't remember, or 8 and something, or pretty mediocre, but off to a hot start. The promise was there. He was 6'7", thought he was worth 70 million or whatever it was at the time. But shame on us. Here goes some stupid stats right before we jump into the next portion of the show. But the Texans are there it is. Second team in NFL history to start 2-0, while the rest of the division is 0-2. The last team to do it, or the only other team to do it, was the 2007 Patriots, who went 16-0. And then I believe they lost in the Super Bowl, which would have been the only undefeated team. They would have broken the Miami Dolphins undefeated record that season. Here's another cool stat, another stupid stat for you. From March to the end of May, CJ Stroud has the #1 selling jersey in the entire NFL, above Patrick Mahomes, the 2 Lions, and Aiden Hutchinson and Amon-Ra St. Brown, more than Burrow, Hurts, and Saquon, more than Gibbs, Micah Parsons, and Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy, I like it. Stupid stats continued. 3,020 yards, the most passing yards in his first 10 home games in NFL history. So let's just go ahead and stack up and rack up any stat that we can and throw it into to a nicely confined little bubble, and we'll set it out there as a record. So CJ Stroud, most passing yards in his first 10 home games in NFL history. I don't know if that means anything, but 3,000 yards in 10 games is pretty darn good. So I like that. And yeah. And we were talking about the IR, like I mentioned earlier. The big pickup for anybody in the fantasy land would be our main guy, Cam Akers. There's his preseason looks, 32 touches, 173 total yards, 116 yards after contact, and 13 missed tackles forced. He also looked very spry and good in the limited action that he got, other than the fumble at the goal line, which would have iced the game with probably 6 or 7 minutes left instead of making it a nail biter in classic Texans fashion. All right. So this week we are taking on, there they are, third on the schedule. We are in Minnesota. We're going to wear white for the third week in a row. I'm getting tired of the white uniforms. I think that Tank Bell doesn't play well in white uniforms. I don't know what it is. But you know who has been playing well? Mr. Nico Collins, Nico the Freako. He's been on a tear. I don't need to put the stats up there for you. You know that he's leading the entire NFL in receiving yardage. He's putting up like 130, 23 a game or something like that. He's had multiple touchdowns, and he's just been the guy, even on scramble drills when that was notoriously Tank Dell's area of expertise. It's now been going to Nico Collins. So, you know, some people could be a little disgruntled at what's been happening, but I think that the targets are still spread out fairly evenly. Obviously, Nico's been a little higher up in the pecking order, and he does a little bit more with it. Diggs is more of the intermediate guy, picking up the short first downs, and he's kind of been eating into Tank a little bit, but not all necessarily. I think Tank and CJ have just been having some odd miscommunications, or maybe just the reps aren't there. I know Tank missed a lot of time with the injury and then having to ramp up and stuff. So maybe, you know, it's just them getting their timing back. But let's go into some film breakdown, and hopefully I uploaded this crap before we go into the Vikings. Yeah, so hopefully it doesn't mute me. If it does, then we'll have to forego this little experiment. But if you can still hear me talking over this film that I took from all 22 and I kind of spliced together using screenshots, then we can talk about every single Tank Dell target over the last 2 weeks. It won't take long, maybe about 5 minutes. So let's see if this works. All right, I think you guys can hear me. Perfect. So this is Tank Dell's first target of the season. It's supposed to be like a quick out. He runs a curl, I believe. And, oh, wait, they moved on to the next play. So that first target, though, he ran a curl and CJ threw an out. So there was a miscommunication. On this one, the play breaks down. He's not there. CJ scrambles a little bit, and this is a good job of Tank just kind of hiding and finding a good spot. This is more of what we're used to seeing from Tank Dell and CJ Stroud, but it hasn't been that easy. Here, play action target to the back of the end zone over here. And I don't know where they're throwing it or who he's throwing it to or what's going on in this situation. It's a little strange to me, to be honest. He would have been open here, maybe towards the back pylon, but that ball's not thrown anywhere near. And this one, we have Tank Dell to the bottom of the screen. Here's another little scramble drill where he finds him for another quick first down. These are the things, like I said, that we're used to seeing. But on a lot of these, they've also, not hit here. He was open initially on that out route. CJ hesitates and then causes a scramble drill, right? Here, play action. This is a touchdown that he just misses. If he throws this to the end on the Indianapolis, that's a 45-yard touchdown for Tank Dell. It's underthrown. It's almost an interception. Tank has his guy beat on the inside by several steps. He missed him. That's CJ's fault right there. No problem. Here we go. Play action over the top. Oh, yeah, I just had to do this one like several times because, you got to see that this is a bad, just bad in general. Another play action down the sideline, wide open Tank. CJ just either anticipates this, doesn't set up his feet, rushes it, misses Tank. He was wide open. That's a play they connect on. Here's one. He was open initially. He wasn't the first read, and then he checks it down to him. And then here we see this last week, just misses him here. Kind of not, this isn't his MO. CJ's usually on these. He puts it way far outside. If he hits Tank when he's breaking, that's a catch with room to run. So that one I'm putting on CJ as well. Here's Tank down at the bottom of the screen. There's a go route. Minimal loss, maybe loss of 3. So here it is again on the, defense is already up on CJ. Nobody bid on Diggs. Nobody went with the go. So kind of a bad play design here. Tank is at the top of the screen here. He's going to come inside and he's open. He's the only person open. He's open again. And CJ misses him again for a potential 73-yard touchdown right here. I'm going to replay this a couple times and then I'll stop it. Tank is at the top of the screen. The play breaks down, but he's open at the top of this. If he just wants to, if Tank was his first read, he's open right there. And he didn't throw it. So then he hesitates. Tank breaks on a scramble drill. Great job. This is what he did all last year. And CJ throws it high and behind him. And it's a tough catch. If he makes that catch, he's down there for a gain of maybe 25. But there it is, high and behind him. Tank has to leave his feet to try to make this. It's over his back shoulder instead of in front of him, which would have been a touchdown. And then this one here, wide open. And CJ puts it at the, out of bounds where nobody can catch it. And look at CJ's reaction after he throws this. Ducks down to the ground. I missed him. So those are at least 4 or 5 plays where CJ Stroud just completely misses Tank Dell. And he's wide ass open. So not Tank Dell's fault. Those are all his targets as far as, receiving targets, but he's getting schemed into the running game 2 or 3 times a game. He's still going to be a valuable flex option. He's going to be boom or bust now because of Stephon Diggs and because CJ is not hitting him on these plays where normally he's breaking it wide open for a long touchdown. And you would have been very happy with just one of those plays in any of these games. So I hope that was informative and helpful for anybody who had any fears about Tank Dell. This is a scream buy low situation. If you just saw what I saw, it's screaming buy low because he catches any of those big plays that they just didn't connect on. You're having a completely different fantasy outlook for Tank Dell on those games. Let's see what's up with the chat. All right, let's catch up. Yes. Vikings have been playing very good. We kind of mentioned that they had 11 sacks. We'll talk about that when we get there. Cashman and Grenard revenge game. I don't see it, Derek. Yeah, Hunter revenge game too, sure. Actually, I could see it if both the centers are not starting and we're reverting to like playing Shaq Mason, or I don't even know who the center would be if both of the centers are out this game. So, but yeah, there's like a quadruple revenge narrative for this game. It's all in the defensive side. We know what we're going to see there. We're going to see some good defense. So I'm not too worried about that. It's which offense can take advantage in those situations and connect. So it is what it is. LOL, we're getting flagged this episode. We might not be. I mean, I don't know. I'm still going. We're still live, bro. We're still live. So if we get flagged, we get flagged. Fuck it. I'll record one and I'll put it up later. Yo, what's up, Song? Appreciate you for showing up, man. Nico did not practice today with a foot injury. I don't expect it to be anything serious. It should be fine. Monitor it tomorrow. It should be some sort of limited thing. He's a baller, so he's going to go. It's a really important game, too. But like I said, if he's out, then you're going to bump up your Stephon Diggs. You're going to bump up your Tank Dell. I wouldn't be bumping up the Schultz so much. We did have Brevin Jordan going to IR, unfortunately. We signed Irv Smith to the practice squad. Cade Stover would get the bump up, in my opinion. He's probably a little younger, a little more athletic, and actually has more rapport with CJ Stroud than Dalton Schultz career-wise, if you think about it. So kind of strange, but it is what it is. Like I said, I wouldn't worry about it too much. If he does not practice again with a foot issue tomorrow, then I'd start to get concerned and start to look for a pivot option for Sunday early slate. The all-white joints go crazy. They did go crazy, though. They iced out. I like the color combinations that they've been using, and the new uniforms are fantabulous. So Tino's saying facts. Yeah, we would have been taken down already. So I'll be careful with playing these videos in the future. They're short enough to where it's like a minute or 30 seconds, and I'm throwing in other sounds on top of stuff and trying to give credit to where I did get videos from when it wasn't myself. So it is what it is there. All right. Okay, so we did the Tank Dell breakdown. Man, I'm efficient today. I'm going to try to keep this one to about an hour. I was at a church thing earlier today doing some production camera work. We had a big youth night for my kids, 6th through 12th grade, so that was fun. And I just love doing camera production and editing and all that kind of stuff, producing. So today was cool. I got to be behind the camera, which is normally something that I don't really do anymore for the church. I'm typically big braining it with all the levers and knobs like Wizard of Oz for them, but good stuff. Good stuff today. All right. Bogart says, "You'll never catch me alive, Couples." Yeah, they're not taking us down. Hold on. Where do I have that drop somewhere? Where the heck is it? I think it's this one. Oh, little. Catch me alive. And hopefully not. So here we go. Let's talk a little bit about the upcoming matchup now. Something has got to give. So we talked, as you guys are mentioning here in the chat, great defense, great defensive play by the Vikings. We'll talk about the Vikings a little bit. They had that 97-yard bomb. Darnold's been playing amazingly out of his mind. The Darnold Terminator, or the Darnold Schwarzenegger, whatever we coined him with a couple years ago. But he's done this several times in his career. He has little hot streaks and stretches before things fall apart. And it typically happens really early in the season for him, and then he'll start seeing ghosts. So I'm hoping that the defense can apply enough pressure. You would have thought that would have happened last week with San Francisco. I really don't know what would happen. I mean, he was at home in the zone, I suppose. So, the Texans are going to have to travel out there to Minnesota and try to do it again. I think that they can really limit the rushing from them and force Sam Darnold to beat them. And the more Sam Darnold throws without the help from the run game, I think that plays into the Texans a little more favorably. Like I said, they have two young rookies in the secondary that people are going to want to try to test. And I think that they're a lot better than people actually realize. Like I mentioned, highest rated rookie first position week 1, Caleb Bullock, highest rated rookie for his position, and second amongst all positions, Kamari Lassiter. So, and we saw Kamari Lassiter have 2 picks in this last game, but one of them was negated by a ticky-tack Henry Tuatua hold on the tight end, which I would have never thrown if I was a referee. I mean, even if I was blatantly going for Chicago, I don't think I would have called a penalty on that because it didn't impede the the tight end's route whatsoever. He did get a little handsy, but he didn't, throw him off his route or use that to gain an advantage in position. So ticky-tacky call. Should have been another turnover there. Would have been 3 picks, in my opinion. But the rookie, there he is, Kamari Lassiter with that 90 grade and just killing it, 90.3 coverage grade last week as well. But overall, through 2 weeks, still locking it down. And that 0.0 passer rating allowed is just tremendous. So good stuff. And, of course, they got Sting on the other end. You got hard-hitting safeties, Jalen Petrie and Jimmy Ward. And then you got your coverage safeties that they rotate in there, which, they may get some more play. That probably be the play call because they do have Jalen Naylor over there. We'll see if Addison is healthy and can contribute. And then, of course, you have Jettis, who's the main guy, who'll probably be covered by Stingley. I don't think he'll shadow him. He doesn't really follow anybody, but I have enough confidence in Kamari Lassiter, honestly, who just came out of college. He played at a great school. He played versus top-notch wide receivers. So, he doesn't seem like the type of kid who's scared or shies away from a challenge. So if JJ's lined up on him on the other side, I'm not worried. I was worried week 1 when I hadn't seen any reps from any of these guys and I didn't know what to expect. But then I was just kind of hanging my head over Jimmy Ward and other guys getting beat deep at the safety spot. So I think at that also the defense was kind of falling asleep thinking that, Anthony Richardson couldn't do that. And it's a little bit different when you're on the field than he actually does. But we saw what happened and he fell back to earth last week. But we're not talking about the Colts just yet. The 0-2 Colts, we'll see them in October, late October, right before Halloween. We went over let's just show this real fast because I forgot to. This is a great angle. Yeah. So he has that vibe. I don't know if you guys ever saw that viral video of the judge just sitting at the bench and then like the dude leaps over and tackles her. That's pretty much what this Danielle Hunter sack, gives vibes to. So boom, be on the lookout. Watch out for that. Sam Darnold. I know Sam Darnold has some legs and he'll probably have his head on a swivel, not necessarily just take that blindsided like that. That play's so funny to me. Now that I look at it, boom. You love to see it. But that's some good stuff there. But like I was saying, something's got to give. The Houston offensive line is the only thing that kind of worries me there. And then obviously the Mixon ankle injury, the hip drop deal. But I think that Cam Akers is, like I said, I've mentioned it a couple times. The word I'm using is spry. He's still young and he has some bounce in his step. He has a great start and stop cutback that he uses in the zone running scheme that just leads to tons of yards because he's patient. He has good vision. So if he can hold on to the football, then I would anticipate an uptick in his game. But like I mentioned, that would be one thing, right, to watch, see if Joe Mixon is back and healthy and he can lean on the run game a little bit to help open things up for CJ Stroud. But we know that the Vikings like to use a lot of play action. Sam Darnold is looking down the field. He's taking shots. He's been really accurate and precise with those as well. So we're going to have to see if we can get him off his game. Apply some pressure, and that's the game plan. Bring the pressure, get him off his game, move him out of the pocket, keep him contained, force him into bad throws. I'm not scared of their run game over there. So the Texans have done a great job these last 2 weeks in containing Jonathan Taylor and DeAndre Swift, who were huge running back names. As far as fantasy goes, these guys are like studs on the regular. Not so much DeAndre Swift, but I mean, last year, if you look at what he did with a great offensive line, he was hard to stop and he was putting up fantasy points. So anytime that you can, do that decisively, I think he had 18 rushing yards on 14 attempts this last week. They held Jonathan Taylor to less than 50 rushing yards. So, that's scary, like I said, and that's nightmare fuel. That is the nightmare fuel. That's the effect of the nightmare fuel. We're doing that without the suspended Danico Autry, who comes back in 3 weeks, and we're doing it without Christian Harris, who's the top linebacker there. So once we get those guys back, look out for this defense to be even tougher and scarier in week 5. I think that the Vikings have their work cut out for them. Like I said, I'm not sure if it's all a lot of it depends on Sam Darnold, and that's the guy that we saw a couple of years seeing ghosts, So I think that he can be spooked off into not having a good game, and especially if the Vikings don't jump up early. The last 2 weeks, the Vikings have been playing with a lead and have not had to, be put in a position where the defense is pinning their ears back and going after them every play. And they can play action, hold the linebackers a little bit, find tight windows for Jalen Naylor, or beat them over the top with Jettis. So I think that I think that this, I mentioned last week, I thought that the Texans could possibly break away and finish that with a double-digit lead and beat the point spread, and they should have. It was a Cam Akers fumble. It was very unfortunate. Instead of it being a 13-point game or whatever it would have been, it finished as a 6-point game. And so, that one in particular thing where the Texans weren't completely perfect, I think, as far as, things go in the game, they lost that fumble. I think that had a big thing to do with the ending of the prediction that I had for that game. So it is what it is. Let's see. Dude, knee at the end almost got ended. Oh, I didn't see. Oh, you're talking about the lineman? Yeah, so he juked the shit out of the lineman off the line, and he put his leg in the ground, and he almost broke it. Let's see. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, I look nasty. So tough job for the offensive line over there. I think it'll be the same type of deal. Like if the Texans don't have their starting center, it might be a difficult day once again up the middle. But CJ Stroud is athletic enough to recognize that in the pocket, get out, and then find a receiver. So he's not doing it as much. And like I mentioned, I think that he's been playing kind of mediocre for CJ Stroud, but he's still putting up like top 7, top 8 numbers, right? As far as all these different metrics. So you love to see that. I think that they have the offense. Week 1, the offense did okay. The defense lapsed. Special teams was good. Week 2, defense carried. Special teams was good. Special teams lapsed in week 1 also. So defense was bad. They won it all on offense, basically week 1. Week 2, they won it all on defense. This week, let's see if they can put it all together versus a very tough 2-0 undefeated Vikings team that deserves a lot of credit, right? So back to something's got to give. Here we go. Here's a nice little chart I pulled up. And there it is. And here's what's got to give. So this is the 2024 QB processing as far as recognizing the defense, the ball is snapped, going through your reads, and then boom, how the play works out, right? So the distribution, if the distribution is perfect and or the pressure disrupts the quarterback progression, there's 4 different quadrants here. They're all color-coded in 3 different sections. So in the top left, where you have CJ Stroud, Justin Herbert, Geno Smith, those are QBs with the talent to achieve even in difficult situations, which is what I was talking about. You'll see CJ pushed off the line or out of the pocket. He'll scramble, find somebody like Tank Dell or Nico Collins on the sideline, or throw it across his body to the middle of the field, which you should never, ever do unless you are CJ Stroud, right? Then in the top right corner, you got guys like Prescott, Jordan Love, Mahomes, Baker Mayfield. Those are QBs who are more or less performing as expected in great situations or good situations. So these are, when the going gets easy, take advantage, right? So that's what you'd like to see, obviously, right? But I think you want to see somebody still more towards the top middle of the spectrum, somewhere in between Geno Smith and Jaden Daniels, most likely, right? Or like flying off the page like Josh Allen all the way to the far right, which is the MVP category. But you want to see them leaning more towards the right portion of the quadrant there. Upper right quadrant is always important in graphs like these because they graft up in that direction, correct? So if you look to the bottom, then you have Tua, Caleb Williams, Aaron Rodgers, and those are QBs who are struggling despite playing in mostly good situations. So guys like this aren't these are the guys that you're probably disappointed with in fantasy. And if you look at this lower right quadrant, you'll see the other names that aren't circled there: Jared Goff and Joe Burrow, who we've been kind of disappointed with the slow starts of Burrow. Jared Goff supposed to be off to this hot start in domes, not happening. Brock Purdy, kind of regression towards the mean there in the middle. Anthony Richardson, great situations because the O-line is fantastic, but he's performing. I think a lot of that was boosted by week 1. So if he'd probably regress back towards the middle. And then the last section that we're going to talk about right there, that's QBs who struggle in difficult situations. And these are, obvious. Bo Nix, bonehead plays, or rookie, kind of tough, not great supporting cast. Will Levis, bonehead plays, idiot, sweats mayonnaise, Butterfingers. The list could go on and on. Plays for the Titans, who are probably the worst team, in my opinion, in the NFL. And then you have guys like Sam Darnold. So he will struggle in difficult situations. Guess what the Texans defense likes to do? It likes to put you in difficult situations. So when I say something's got to give, this is the graph that I'm pointing to. It's going to be the quarterback play. If all things are equal, given these two teams, they're both 2-0. They both have great defenses. They both have offensive weapons, and it comes back down to the very most important thing in the NFL, and that's quarterback play. We're going to the second-year guy who's probably had almost as many wins as Sam Darnold has had in the last 3 years. So, and there it is. There's this metric. It's pretty low. It's down to the bottom. It's right in between, or he's triangulating between Caleb Williams himself and Bryce Young. So, do I have faith that Sam Darnold can keep doing this? Somewhat. Like I said, he's had some early season magic where he's been able to string 3 to even 5 games. We saw a couple of years ago when he was with the Panthers. He had a 5-game stretch where Christian McCaffrey was just tearing it up and he was running in all these touchdowns, and he was a upper echelon fantasy QB. This time he's doing it a little bit more through the air, but just in good situations. Defense coming up with turnovers to allow the offense to score. So he's getting put into these good situations. But when the situation turns bad, he is taking sacks. I believe he was sacked 6 times last week. So, there's going to be some give and take, but when the going gets tough, when the pressure is applied, I think Sam Darnold is the one who will crack and not CJ Stroud. So if this is a close football game, even though it's on the road, I would still give the edge to my Houston Texans. I'm probably going to do that most of the time. But like I said, even in week 1, I said anything could happen. It was a pretty close game. I think I still had it by like a field goal as far as my projections go. So I'm not messing around when I come to this. I don't want to look stupid the following week. I'm going to try to be honest and unbiased in these opinions. But I do think that if this is a close game and the going gets tough, there will be some mistakes that are made, and it'll probably be by Sam Darnold. And I think the Texans are going to be the eager ones to try to take advantage of those. So, yeah, and it's difficult to keep up. Like I said, when you come off a very high emotional, high octane win like they did last week versus San Francisco, I would expect them to probably come out a little bit flat, just to try to still probably riding that win. A lot of times they're supposed to turn the page and move on to the next guy, but they might still be thinking about, hey, we beat San Francisco. We're feeling pretty good about ourselves. Meanwhile, the Texans know there's much more room for improvement, a lot of mistakes to clean up. That's all you heard out of everybody, in the post-game press conferences. So, but yeah, big surprises over there. Baker Mayfield looks like he could be one of those QB1 league winners off the waiver wire. And I'm just interested. I didn't see where it was, but where's Derek Carr? Do you see Derek Carr on this list, anybody? He's not on here, which is weird. I just don't see it. If you see it, let me know. But I had trouble finding his name. Maybe he's just been so good or so ridiculous that he's off this chart. He's like somewhere like way above Josh Allen, and then I would expect that to not be sustainable and then have him regress somewhere towards the mean at some point, maybe towards at least a Patrick Mahomes, Jordan Love level. But he's doing it on super low efficiency. On super low volume, high efficiency. He went from being, I'm talking about Derek Carr, he went from being one of the check down Charlies to one of the least or the most ADOT over the last 2 weeks. I don't know what the hell is going on there, but if that trend continues, well, at least they're in the NFC, because that's kind of scary. Let's see. I don't even understand what the stat means. So the distribution. So let's say if everything is perfect, right? And so on the left side of the screen, right, that's your distribution EPA, and then down at the bottom, that's the distribution rate. So if things are up in the upper right-hand corner, that's better, right? That's how the graphs work. The higher up one thing goes, and the further out one thing goes on the metric. It graphs up towards the right. So that's what you want. But in these situations, the color combinations are breaking it down for you. The QBs with talent to succeed in difficult situations is in green. QBs who are put into great situations and exceeding those expectations, or doing well in those good situations, are in blue on the upper right. Then at the bottom, QBs who are struggling even though they've been put in good situations. So everything on the right side of the graph is good situations. Everything's perfect. You have great blocking. There's no pressure. Those are teams that are getting that on the right side, or at least those plays are coming in, and that's what the quarterback is seeing. And then depending if they're on the top, that means they're doing well. And then from the bottom, that means they're doing bad in those situations. And then everybody on the left side, that means the situations have been difficult, If you're on the top, you're succeeding. If you're at the bottom, you have difficult situations and you have trouble succeeding in those difficult situations. So lower bottom left corner, bad, upper right corner, good. But if you're in the upper left corner, that means you have really good quarterback play and the situations have just been hard. So that could be scheduling. It could be your offensive line, could be things like that, which is why over here on this other side, I don't think Caleb Williams is good. I think that his offensive line is decent. I think he's making bad decisions and he's not getting rid of the ball on time and things like that. So same thing with Aaron Rodgers. He's getting rid of the ball too quickly, probably coming off his first reads and checking it down. And then Tua had that horrible game where he threw 3 interceptions and got concussed. So that's why he's down in that bottom corner. Kyler, the 4th ranked QB in fantasy football. I just don't get it. It's his rushing floor. That helps. So, you know, look at Jada Daniels. He's way up here at the top, above Prescott, above, you know, almost in like MVP type categories. And I think that I don't even know if they've won a game. They're 1-1 over there. He hasn't thrown a touchdown pass. So, you know, fantasy is a little bit broken when it comes to QB scoring. But this is as far this graph is showing you the situations that the team's putting them in, and then what the quarterback is doing with those situations. So anything above the dotted line horizontally means the quarterback is doing good. Anything below means the quarterback is doing bad. And then on the right, that means good situations, left, worse situations by, you know, either by coverage, like, you know, the coverage is really good, right? So that's a bad situation to put it on the left. So that's why you kind of see guys like CJ Stroud over here on the left, because he played a very good Bears defense that had good coverage, right? Or was applying pressure during the quarterback's progressions, right, while they're in the pocket. So that's what the stat breaks down. Then, like I said, Sam Darnold struggles in these situations, and he's been getting put in these situations. So it probably is because of the defense they faced in the 49ers or whatever it may be. But those situations and then the way he deals with it, that's what this graph kind of breaks down. So that's my tiebreaker as far as what the Texans would be doing with the Vikings out there in Minnesota. Why is Geno so low? Because he had a terrible week 1. Oh, it wasn't terrible, but let's go back to that. Let me see if I can break that down. I haven't been watching much Seahawks, to be honest with you. Where is Geno? He's not low. What are you talking about? Oh, you're talking about the rankings, maybe? Oh, I don't know. That's weird. But he has been put into, according to this graph, the situations are more difficult, meaning that the coverage is probably tighter. And we know that DK Metcalf isn't a great separator, except for that one play last week. But that could be it. And it also could be like his offensive line, the pressure that's coming in. It's disrupting his progressions. He can't get through it. Maybe week 1, he wasn't getting through all his progressions, and then he was getting pressure, forcing it to throw it away. All these are what's going to skew where these quarterbacks are grouped in this chart as far as how that goes. But yeah, I thought this chart was very interesting after 2 weeks, just to kind of graph what the situations the QBs have been put into and then how they're dealing with that, which is why I said this is my tiebreaker for these 2 very evenly matched teams. I'm not taking anything away from the Minnesota Vikings. And, you know, Sam Darnold wasn't even expected to be their starter. So the fact that he's able to do this and kind of come in, and he was pegged to be the guy, right? He's like, he's going to fit this system. So, I mean, it makes more sense, right, that he's doing well other than the rookie. I think that they had planned to do that initially. They were going to lead off with Sam Darnold. It just didn't work out that way because McCarthy was playing so well, I guess, in preseason. But then the injury happened. And then, hey, look, now they're 2-0. Who's to say that they were going to be 2-0 if McCarthy was playing and seeing live game action once the real NFL game started? So, you know, we can only assume and speculate, but it is what it is. Both teams are 2-0, and Sam Darnold's been playing really good. But did anybody rush off to go pick him up off of waivers unless it was a super flex? Probably not. Same thing with Derek Carr. You know, I feel like some people overspent. A lot of people bluffed and then didn't, you know. We've seen Derek Carr do this before where he has long runs and then it's not sustainable. The last time, although I saw a weird TikTok with a correlation between Derek Carr and an election year, and he always kills it in an election year. So guess what? We're in an election year. Maybe his conservative Trumpism, I don't know. But it has something to do with how he plays. Yeah, Geno might be top 5. As far as fantasy points and scoring, yeah, possibly. It also depends on your league, right? But he was up there. Bayfield is up there. Carr is up there. I play in a league where the quarterback efficiency metrics matter. So you get points for completions and you get fractional points taken away for incompletions and things like that. If you fumble the football, you throw an interception, those are more than just 2. They turn into like -3, -4. If you throw a pick 6, it's -6, like real football. So I'm trying to get it down to where quarterback scoring is precise. And in those leagues, man, you still had like Baker, you still had Carr, you still had Geno doing very well, and even Jaden Daniels is still doing pretty well over guys like Jared Goff. So it's just weird. Quarterback scoring, I think I'll play with it forever until I get it down to where it's perfect. And guys who are bad at football are going to be bad on your fantasy team. So it's not just because they're able to break off a 40-yard run or give you 38 yards as a rushing floor should they be considered a top 10 QB. I think that's fugazi for me for quarterbacks and fantasy scoring, but I don't like to play that way. Homie, don't play that. Homie, don't play that. But those, I think, are my final thoughts. I don't want to get too far into, the X's and O's for the Vikings. Like I said, I saw some all 22 film on him. I saw some great work, like I said, by Sam Darnold getting out there and doing what he's done. He's been able to do that before in his career, but we've always seen it fall apart at some point. So it's just, to me, it's just like, when does he become a pumpkin? When does he see ghosts? And I think that, in the following week or the night after Sunday, he'll be seeing these two guys in his dreams, and hopefully it'll turn out for the best for the Texans. So I hope you guys enjoyed the recap. I hope you guys really enjoyed the Tank Dell breakdown, which was the bulk of this podcast, as far as just giving you guys some hope and some encouragement as far as that goes. Please, either if you do have him in fantasy, hold on to him. You don't necessarily have to start him this week, but if he does have a big game, and I feel like it's coming, because they use him a lot. He's just been very unfortunate, and that he's had at least 2 or 3 targets that could have been potential touchdowns as well up to this point. So I think that's probably a big reason why the Texans offense didn't look as explosive, or hasn't looked as explosive, because they haven't gotten that big one-off play to Tank Dell that just breaks the game open, where he scores from 40 plus yards out. Nobody else has really done that this season for the Texans. And I feel like he's the main guy who can do that for them. So look for Slowick to maybe stop running so much on first downs and setting CJ Stroud up on 2nd and 8 or 2nd and 10s and just lighting first down on fire. If we can get some play actions on first down, pursue hopefully to Tank Dell as a first read, or maybe even a second read, because CJ's coming off of his first read so fast. And in a lot of those that you saw in the film clip, Tank was the first read, but he was coming off of him before Tank even made the break. So it could be scheme. I mentioned in week 1, I saw a lot of like double post verticals where 2 guys are occupying the same space, and then the play gets extended and they end up crossing, and he hits Nico on a deep route instead of throwing it all the way across field for Tank. So I think the timing has been off with a lot of these in real game time, as opposed to what they're seeing in practice or doing in practice. So it's just about getting on the same page with everybody. I think all the Stephon Diggs reps have been showing off, but also the same thing with Nico, that he has that rapport. I just think the Tank needs to stay at it, not put his head down, and CJ needs to continue to look for him, but just do a better job of getting him catchable footballs. He's been, I think, those targets that I've looked at, and I looked at all of the receivers on the team, he's been the most erratic when it comes to targeting Tank Dell late. So if CJ can clean that up and start playing a little bit better football, like I said, I think he's been playing good, pretty good. I've mentioned mediocre, but I mean mediocre for him. For CJ Stroud. I think there's much more that's been left on the bone. There's much better days of football ahead for CJ Stroud. He's yet to throw a 3-touchdown game yet. I know he only did it like 2 or 3 times last year, but as a rookie with minimal weapons last season or whatever, and then having guys off and on and being hurt, I'm looking for the Texans to take a step up, and I think that they're open to the challenge of bouncing back this week against a very tough Vikings defense, but it can be done. Hey, what's up, Albert? I'm about to close this one down. I've been going for a little bit over an hour, but you can catch the replay once I close this out. I will stay here for a bit just to talk a little bit of questions and see what we have as far as what's coming up in the chat. Bogey saying Sam Darnold will turn back into a pumpkin at the stroke of midnight. Yeah, it might have already happened. Who knows, right? But I do appreciate you, Albert, for showing up and showing out. If you got a question, drop it in the chat. We're still live right now for a bit. Derek, okay, Peacock. So my work league, you choose, bro. Pick 2: Shaheed, Jamo, or Tank Dell. I'm going with the hot hands, bro. I'll pick for you, Shaheed and Jamo. Yeah, I'm totally fine in this situation sitting Tank Dell. In a lot of leagues, bro, I have all three of these guys. And in those situations, I'm starting my wide receiver one, whoever it is, and then probably Shaheed and Jamo. And in this situation, I'll probably actually rank them. I'd probably go Jameson Williams because of the number of targets. If you guys remember in my bust or the GWN bust episode, I had Sam Laporta as my bust. And so far, so good after 2 weeks. And I expect that to continue. I think the Jameson Williams is going to just continue to eat those targets, get somewhere between 7, 8, 9, 10 targets a game, and have the opportunity to pop one off like Tank Dell. So Jameson Williams is last year's Tank Dell right now, to be honest. Shaheed, he's always been a big play guy. A little bit less volume to get it done. Derek Carr, less volume because they've been so efficient. Right, I think that doesn't last, but Shaheed is still the guy that I would rather own ever having to pay up for somebody like Chris Olave. So I'm still starting Shaheed and anybody there as far as like Olave, AK. Derek Carr is a hot waiver wire pickup, so could possibly save your season if you had trouble with the QB. So I'm still firing on the hot hands. Those two teams are really good. Tank Dell. You'll feel bad if he goes off on your bench, but I wouldn't worry about it because then you can have that confidence to throw him in as your boomer bust flex. I think that Jamo's more consistent now after these 2 weeks that we saw. Shaheed still boomer bust, but he's connected unlike Tank Dell. So that's what you're getting there as far as that goes. Like I said, I would like to see better QB play from CJ before I have full confidence sending Tank out there. In certain leagues that I have a lot of AJ Brown, so he's on my IR or in my out position, and Tank Dell has to be started. So I have a lot of Jamo and Tank. I have a lot of Shaheed and Tank going for me. And then I'm just flexing, Rice is the later game. So he was one of my starting wide receivers, and now he's my flex because of you always want to flex those guys at the end of the week there. You want to start the guys who play early in your starting positions, right? So you have that flexibility to move around in case something happens, like, hey, Christian McCaffrey is not active this week, or hey, he's gone on IR, right? So we love those types of surprises. But yeah, I would still, in this situation, bro, I'll sit Tank. I'll go Shaheed and Jamo until I see it from Tank or until I see it from CJ and they have that connection back. But like I said, you saw those play breakdowns, man. He missed them so many times on wide open or easy looks. I think that they'll get that corrected. If they don't get it corrected this week, then the panic meter definitely goes up. But I'd expect Tank to have probably his best game of the season because it's not going to be hard to beat. All he needs is one big catch, like I said. They just haven't come, unfortunately. One in and out of his hands, a couple of them, out of the side. CJ's basically throwing these to where nobody can catch them except for the receiver, and even then he's making them super difficult for Tank to go get. And Nico Collins as well. He's had a couple of close ones on the sidelines where it's like, hey man, you could have made that a little easier for the guy, but it is what it is. He likes those deep out routes like that where the DB has trouble getting to the football and only his guy can catch it. So I think that's a higher probability throw for him. He just hasn't connected with Tank, so. No problem, Derek. Appreciate that, man. Let's see. I do too, Peacock. I think this is a Tank game too. I just don't know which one to say. Yeah, that's tough when you have three guys that have similar skill sets that can take the top off of defenses like that. That becomes really almost like a game of roulette, right? Because you don't have that many flexes. So I've been there before, though. Most of the time, I typically will forego a wide receiver one. I'll draft 2 high-end running backs, and then I'll grab a bunch of wide receiver 2s that I think could break out. So you having Tank, Jamo, and Shaheed is that's a Peacock special. So those are things that I like. Receivers that people kind of forget about. Tank not necessarily, right? He had a lot of hype, but not so much for Shaheed and Jameson Williams. People were, I think, also scared to pull the trigger on that, but. Like I said, it is what it is. Let me look up the over-under for this game really quickly because I didn't even do that, to be honest. Texans, Vikings preview. They'll probably – I'd imagine that it'd be maybe 45. Oh, I put preview. I meant to put over-under. Excuse me. 45. Excuse me. 45.5 points. Texans are a 2-point favorite. Yeah, so I was going to drop my projection. Let's put it – I say they cover. I'm always going to say that, and let's go for the over. 27-20 Texans, final score. Throw it in the chat. What do you guys got? I'll shout them out here while we get ready to wrap it out. If you got any other fantasy football questions for me, feel free. I am here, like I said, for a few more minutes. Had a long Wednesday, but I enjoy these H-Town Huddle moments that we have together. And I am working on, I wrote them down. I have some shirts for Dennis, our resident Viking fan who shows up and shows out. I'm surprised he's not in here talking crap right now, which would have been really cool. He could have given me some more insight on the Vikings, but there's that. So shout out to Dennis. I'm going to work on a 6-pack shirt for him. I'm making my notes here. I also have a free Jordan Mason one that's on here already. He's holding the free Masonry book, 6-pack. Chaotic wanted some floral stuff. So we'll get with that with some, I told her, I was like, there's no bias here. I'll do some Trevor Lawrence shirts. Don't worry. They'll say, fuck T-Law. No, I'm just joking. And then let's see. I think those are the only 3 requests I have. So I'll try to get those in over the weekend while we're doing some football. That way you guys can order some stuff and have for this, get just in time for the season. Typically it takes like 10 to 12 days, just depending where you live. So, oh yeah. Thank you, Derek, for reminding me. Yes, definitely get you the Jamo shirt with the smoke and the blunt thing. I'll go back and look at the texts. But I do have a lot of stuff. Tomorrow's more of a relaxed, chill day for me, and I've gotten ahead on the graphic games for the GWN and setting up all the stream links for the coming week. That way I have some time in my downtime at work to do graphics, put them up there, order some shirts. So Jamo, smoking the blunt. And I know you gave me what you wanted it to say, so I will go back and look for it in the texts. So no problem. Appreciate you, my friend, my bro. 23-17 Texans. I like it. I was initially going to go with like a 22-17, something like that. Yeah, but I was like, 27-20, that works for me. I like it. It's nice, solid, round numbers. I think the defense still does enough. 27 points is just under the Texans season high of where they were before, so they're still going to face a good defense here. So we'll see with it. Can we just smoke a blunt? There you go. That's it. Let me write that down. Definitely, bro. That will be up on the shirt. Can we just smoke a blunt? Perfect. Yes, sir. Yeah, so I'll put all those. These are on my to-do list for tomorrow. Try to knock out as many as I can. That way you guys have some stuff to order for the weekend. And I do believe at the end of this month, maybe within the next 10 days or so, maybe a week or so, there should be another sale that hits the website. So y'all be on the lookout for that. One more time, big shout out to everybody at the GWN Network for allowing me to do this wonderful podcast that we call the H-Town Huddle every Wednesday at 8:30, 9 Central, give or take 30 minutes or so, depending if I have a church event or whatever it may be. So good stuff. Here we go. We need a shirt with all the studs that got put on the IR this year. We call it Survival of the Healthiest. Yeah, that one's going on a notepad. I got you here. It's a green sticky pad, so you can't see it. But that one's going on a notepad. Survival of the Healthiest. That might be a lot of guys on one shirt, but that's fine. We can do it like we'll do like a bunch of faces just all stacked up if it gets to be like 20 or 30 guys or whatever, because that's what it feels like right now. We got Isaiah Pacheco and hold on, I have some music for everybody who is or did I upload it here? Where's the sad violin? Where are you? There you are. So for all the pour one out for all the football guys on who was your Isaiah Pacheco's, Christian McCaffrey's. Oof, man, that's how many of the first 12 picks are even not hurt at the moment? That's the real question. So we're definitely gonna put that on a shirt. It could be a shirt with the gem with the icon on it, carrying a list with all the names of the players. That would probably be easier. Than just putting all the players up there, because I think I just listed off the top of my head, like maybe the top 10, top 12 fantasy picks are all on injured reserve. And so it is pivot and move on. But homeboy of mine last year, shout out to Skilo, who won our league last year. He had Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb goes out early, severe knee injury, gets really close to almost missing out on the playoffs, makes a couple of trades, wins his last 2 games to sneak in the 6th spot, and then he runs the table and becomes the champion of my home league last year. So kudos to him for, I think he only had like 6 wins before he won the last 2 to get into the playoffs. So anything is possible, guys. It is fantasy. Hey, shout out to Johnny Middens. Good to see you guys. Yeah, hey, you subscribed. Awesome. Good. I appreciate that, man. Like I said, we're about to wrap it up, but I had a really good film breakdown on Tank Dell. I did an all 22 film breakdown of every single one of his targets from CJ Stroud this season over the last 2 weeks, talking about how if they connect on some of these, the offense should be set up really well to be moving forward and scoring more points. It's just been a little bit of a series of unfortunate events. So, hey, Jamie, what's up, my man? Shout out to him over there. Appreciate you for showing up. And like I said, I was just giving you all the rundown of what we did. But yeah, man, it was a good show. Like I said, I did all the Tank Dell breakdown. We talked about the whooping. I don't know what I was trying to say there, but we talked about the ass whooping that we put on the Bears. It was a really tough fought game. Should have been a bigger victory, but it is what it is. Hey, don't worry about it, Jamie. You can catch the replay. I have some really good stuff. You can fast forward to the all 22 film breakdown that I do. Talking about the plays. They loop over like 2 or 3 times, and I just give my thoughts on those Tank Dell pass attempts that are targets that he had there. So feel free to go back and look at that. And there's some good stuff. There's some good stuff on there. And like I said, we broke down a couple of metrics as far as, and I can put those up there real quick again, but like playoff odds after week 2 for each team. We talked about the Houston's use of only 2 linebackers. With Christian Harris being out, they said, screw it. We don't need 3 linebackers to beat you. We're going to do it with these 2 guys, Aziz Al-Shaair and Henry TuaTuo. What else? We talked about a bunch of stupid stats, like the Texans' first time starting 2-0 and the rest of their division is 0-2. The last ones that did it were the undefeated 2007 Patriots, who lost in the Super Bowl. Talked about CJ having the number 1 jersey sale. We talked about his 10-game home history NFL passing yards. And then we talked about all the injuries and stuff like that. Not to worry about Nico Collins. I think that he will play. Aziz Al-Shaair suspension may be looming for him punching. We talked about Cam Akers being the next man up if Joe Mixon misses time with his ankle injury from the hip drop tackle. And like I said, we broke down some pretty extensive film with Tank Dell. And then we shout out the Neon Peacock merch where you can get all your cool gear, like this awesome Can You Diggs It Stephon Diggs t-shirt that I'm wearing right now. And we broke this one down too, as far as how quarterbacks do as far as being set up with coverages and if they're receiving any pressure. The guys on the right side of the spectrum here are being put into good situations. The guys on the left side of the vertical dotted line are seeing either tighter coverage or pressure from linemen or linebackers. And then the guys above the horizontal line are doing good in those situations, either bad or good situations. They're still excelling. And then everybody below the dotted line is struggling in both good and difficult situations. So there's that. And this is why I said the tiebreaker here goes to the Texans as far as if everything else is equal. Both defenses are great. Special teams are great. Run games, passing games are great. But then you go back to the most important position, which is the quarterback. Then the obvious difference is Sam Darnold not excelling in difficult situations while CJ Stroud seems to thrive. So there's a quick recap, but you can obviously go back and catch the replay of the Tank Dell breakdown, which is really good. Yeah, QB pressures. That's right. Yep. Oh, I appreciate you, man. I'm glad you're going over to the website, checking that stuff out. So I also think that Mixon will be good. Yes. So we're doing it. We're doing it. But I would, like I said, an hour and a half. That's typically the format for this. I try to give you guys as much information in this time period. It's just me listening to myself talk, but appreciate everybody who shows up in the chat, prompts me, gives me a few ideas and extra things to talk about. So that's always helpful. Tell your friends, guys, like and subscribe. Let them know every Wednesday, 8:30. Not only is it just focused on the Houston Texans, but we will cover a lot of the AFC South, a lot of in-depth on the players, what I believe. And then, of course, all your fantasyisms, starts at questions, stuff like that. And you can come back and catch us tomorrow night. We're going to have our watch party. I believe that New England, they're putting the Jets on again. All right, so it's New England versus the Jets tomorrow, and then we'll have our Friday morning wake your game up with the whole crew. Great fun. We always go for several hours there with all the cool antics and drops and Dr. Bogey and all that good stuff. So make sure you guys are liking, subscribing, telling all your friends, checking out the GWN, checking out the merch, and hit me up if you guys want something that you want to see up on the website. Like I said, I'm here to listen. My motto is that it can be done. So, yeah, it can be done. We got through the whole thing, Tino, without getting flagged or taken down, so we'll run it back again. Let's look at this Daniil Hunter sack just for good measure because, that's a thing of beauty. Plus, it's kind of funny. He totally like decleats himself and takes Caleb Williams off screen. So I just love this angle of it. It's hilarious to me. I don't know why. But on that note, guys, appreciate everybody for showing up. Right, next time is next time, guys. So like I said, tell everybody to show up. We'll have some more fun next week. Hopefully the Texans will be 3-0. If not, the vibes might be a little bit different. We might have 2-1 vibes, right? But it's always a good time here with the Neon Peacock. So appreciate you guys once again. I think I've said it like 40 or 50 times, but really love the fact that you guys are showing up, showing out, and I have somebody to talk to about my Texans. It's been a long time coming. They haven't been good in a long time. So definitely want to, shoot that out there. Hopefully Mixon's good to go and we're ready to do our thing. But yeah, we will catch you guys on the next one. I will leave you with another one of those. Let's do that hype video again. The one that we started at the beginning. Oh no, that's every tank target. Where did it go? We'll do the swarm for you guys. And then we'll end the show. But once again, appreciate y'all, man. We'll see you next week. Tune in to us tomorrow, Friday. And of course, Sundays, Grit Don't Quit. We'll be with you all day from like dawn when we wake up, answering questions all the way up until game time, helping you guys out. So stick with us. We're going to win some championships together. It's going to be a fun 2024 season. I will catch you guys on the next one.